It is Thanksgiving in the NFL, and I have one best bet for all three NFL games on Thursday, November 25th, and then I'll end off the video with a plus 460 odds parlay. But first, I want to say thank you to all of you guys in the community. That's what Thanksgiving is all about, and it's showing your love and appreciation to what you're thankful for. And honestly, after doing this for a full year, which we just passed our year anniversary a couple days ago last week, we're inching closer and closer to 14,000 subscribers. You guys have been absolutely killing the support. So if you want to join the community, click that subscribe button. I've been preaching, I've been trying to hit 14,000 subscribers by Thanksgiving, and we're close to it, only 300, 200 away. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and even consider clicking that like button down below and comment your best bet for Thursday's games. I appreciate it. It only takes a couple seconds, and it really means a lot. Now let's get into the slate, and first we'll recap last week, which truthfully was about as mediocre as it gets. We had some highs, had some lows, and it ended with 7-7. We are 4-4 in player props, 2-2 on spreads, and 1-1 on over-unders. Like I said, as mediocre as it gets, we're just losing juice, and really there's not much you can do about it. Our parlay, we had a same-game parlay on Monday Night Football, misses by 2 Leonard Fournette rushing yards. Truthfully, that's just how it happens. We're going to get into it, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I want to say, get your forks out. Let's dive in. Let's eat, and we're going to start with the first game. And it's not a great one. Bears versus Lions. You got the Lions still winless. They have one tie to their name. And the Bears, they're sitting as 3.5-point favorites. And before I say my best bet for this game, in honor of Sam, who said this on the podcast, if you find yourself watching this game on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, and even if you aren't celebrating Thanksgiving, you're one of the people outside of the U.S., or maybe you just don't celebrate in the United States, but please go spend some time with your family or friends. Even if you're outside of the United States, you don't have to watch this game. It's go spend time with your family and friends. No one, and I mean no one, wants to watch Jared Goff or Tim Boyle versus Andy Dalton. Most likely Andy Dalton. I do not believe Justin Fields will play. But in the spirit, we're going to keep going. I'm going to give you my best bet, and we're going to start with David Montgomery. Over 76.5 rushing yards, minus 115 on DraftKings. Very similar analysis to what we saw last week, and we took Nick Chubb's over, and yeah, he crushed it with ease. And you look at Montgomery, the matchup is the reason we are here. Right now, the Lions are giving up the second most rushing yards per game to opposing teams at 140.5 per game. The only team that's more is the Los Angeles Chargers are actually only giving up 145, so one more bad game, and they might pass the Chargers. But last week, Montgomery and the entire Bears offense struggled. He managed just 58 rushing yards on 14 carries. Baltimore defense really stepped up in the absence of Lamar Jackson. They knew they had to carry the team in order to get a win, and they did just that. But like I said, Montgomery's usage is why we're here. He had 14 carries in a game. The Bears did not get anything going. They could barely move the ball. And now on the season against the Lions, 8 running backs. Just 8 running backs have had 14 or more carries, exactly what David Montgomery did last week. 6 of them have cashed this over against the Lions. Those running backs alone are averaging 95.5 rushing yards per game. And one of those running backs, one of those 6 that has had 14 carries and hit this over, was David Montgomery himself. They played earlier this season. David Montgomery, 23 carries, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's had 60-plus rushing yards in all 5 career games versus the Lions. So if this line does, tend to creep up a little bit, maybe same game parlay it with something else you like. But still, I do like David Montgomery. I think he gets into the 80s, 90s, maybe even 100 yards again rushing. This matchup is great, and the workload will be there. He's the workhorse back. He's seen 27 carries for the past 2 weeks. And Khalil Herbert, who was pretty good in Montgomery's absence due to injury, has only seen 5 carries. So I love Montgomery. I think he will be the appetizer today, and we'll move on to the second game on the slate, the main entree. That's the Raiders versus Cowboys, and we're going to get right into it. Raiders, I'm taking your team total under 21.5 points, minus 110 on FanDuel. Now, we all know all the things that the Raiders organization and players have gone throughout the year. We don't need to talk about them, but finally appears to kind of have caught up to them over the last 3 weeks. Really, they have been struggling. They're on a 3-game losing streak, but they've not scored. Their offense has looked bad. Derek Carr's taken blame for it himself. They've scored 16, 14, and 13 points, and their offense really struggled. And on Thursday, I just don't see it getting better against the Cowboys defense that's playing much better than it ever has, really, in the past decade. Now, their offense, you look at the Cowboys offense, it's really banged up, but we'll talk about their defense first. It was led by Trayvon Diggs, leading the league in interceptions, and future defensive rookie of the year, Micah Parsons. Now, the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving every single year, and you have to go back to 2011 for the last time they actually held an opponent under 22 points, but I think their defense can do it because the defense is much better than really what we've seen out of them over the last decade. Now, this is the new year, and I believe this defense shows up for a couple reasons. Very similar to what the Ravens did last week when they had Lamar Jackson. They had, now Rashad Bateman was ill, but he did play. Marquise Hollywood Brown was out. they really were banged up, and that defense showed up. They showed up, and they knew we got to show up and play well today. And I think that's what we'll see out of the Cowboys offense or defense, because their offense is banged up. Amari Cooper will be out. And CeeDee Lamb, who suffered a concussion on Sunday, likely out again. Then you got Ezekiel Elliott banged up with a knee/ankle injury. And really, it's just Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz out there trying to carry the show and hold down the fort. Now, hopefully they do get Ezekiel Elliott, and he's active. He's been a limited participant in practice so far this week. But you look at these teams, and they're really good enough to beat the Raiders as is with whatever they're trotting out there. And I think we see the Cowboys go to more of a ground and pound nature against this Raiders defense, who's currently giving up the 4th most rushing yards per game in the NFL. And you look at it, so we might see fewer possessions for the Raiders, helping us cash this team total under 21.5 points. Now, Dallas has lost 3 games so far this season, and obviously the last one, the most recent one, the third one being on Sunday. So in the previous 2, they'd given up 31 points to the Bucks and 30 to the Broncos. And the following week, they gave up just 17 points to the Chargers and 3 points to the Falcons. I think the Cowboys come into this game, they've held their opponent under this line in 3 of their 5 home games so far this season, and in 6 of 10 games overall. I think they'll hold the Raiders in check. All you really got to do is stop Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow will run a couple 3-yard routes, but that's about it. Stop the run game a little bit, and I think we should see the Raiders not score a lot of points. We're taking their under, 21.5 points, team total. And now the final game on the slate, the dessert round, Saints versus Bills. The Bills are traveling to New Orleans to take on Trevor Siemian and the Saints. And I'm going to keep this one short, and I'm taking the Saints plus 4.5, minus 110 on pretty much every single book that is right now. Now, I can see why a lot of people will look at this game, and they'll point back to a couple weeks ago. They'll say, you know what, the Jaguars, the Bills lost to the Jaguars, and what did they do the next week? They were like 10.5, 13-point favorites. They beat my New York Jets to a pulp. And as a Jets fan, then they're going to say, you know what, I expect a similar fate here. The Saints team has really been on the downtrend. And as a Jets fan, I got to tell you, the Saints are much, much better than the New York Jets, and I don't think that takes a genius to admit. And for starters, they have an elite defense. The Jets' defense is abysmal, and while this defense has not played great the past couple weeks, they just got embarrassed by Jalen Hurts last week, giving up 40 points, barely couldn't stop the run. I think they show up today in a big way on Thanksgiving. Now, the Bills, their defense isn't much better. They just, Jonathan Taylor just scored another touchdown. Yeah, they just got romped by the Indianapolis Colts for 40-plus points. They just got obliterated. It wasn't even close in that game, and I find it hard to see them coming back and bouncing back in the Superdome on the road. Now, I understand you might like to pick teams that lost the previous week and bounce back in a big way, but I got to say, over the last 10-plus years, it is hard. While Sean Payton has been the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, it is hard to go into New Orleans and win a game outright, regardless of what you did the previous week. They're one of the worst teams. They could be one of the worst teams in the league, and it's still hard to win in the Superdome. The only home game they've lost this season by more than 4.5 points was an overtime game to the Giants about a month and a half ago. It's just a total gut call. I just don't like what Josh Allen's been doing so far this season, and I just don't see him going into the Superdome and lighting it up. Now, you can look at it and say, Thursday night, prime time, I could see a ton of people, the late game, they're chasing. Maybe they lost earlier bets in the game, like chasing this game. We're taking the Bills. They're the better team. You got the Saints are absolutely struggling. But I'm saying not so fast, because Josh Allen, he's struggling with the case of DTM. Doing too much. Just very similar to Patrick Mahomes. He's trying to win games by himself, and that's not going to win in the National Football League, and that won't work against an opportunistic defense like the New Orleans Saints. Like the Saints to keep this game close and potentially win it outright. It's I'll take the points plus 4.5, but wouldn't surprise me if they won this outright. Now, lastly, so I'm riding with the Saints plus 4.5. Now, lastly, if you watch the podcast, which if you haven't already, go check it out. It was posted on Tuesday morning, but I gave Sam, one of the people on the podcast, I gave him a chance, and I said to earn a Green Bay Packers cheesehead, which he's not a Packers fan, actually a Jets fan, but he's been supporting the Packers all season, and I told him what he had to do was he had to pick all 3 money lines right on Thanksgiving, and so I'm going to ride with Sam's money line parlay, Bears, Cowboys, and Saints, plus 460. We're going to see how he does, because I want to buy him a cheesehead, and I think he has a good chance, because I think the Bears, Cowboys, and Saints have a good chance of winning all of their respective games, and I'm going to be rooting for Sam, and I hope you guys are too. Now, like I said, let me know your best bet down below in the comment section. I want to see what you guys are playing. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and friends if you're celebrating. We appreciate you guys all for being part of the COS community. Now, the next NFL video you see from me will likely be on Saturday, maybe Friday night, so stay tuned for that. We still got daily videos coming every single day except for Thursday because there's no sports on besides NFL games, and this video went live on Wednesday. So we appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys Saturday when we're 3-0 leading into week 12. We appreciate you guys. This has been Austin. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.